The morning air was crisp at Naval Base Coronado as Lieutenant Sarah Martinez adjusted her uniform one final time before reporting to her new assignment. Fresh out of the Naval Academy with honors in military intelligence, she had dreamed of field work, strategic operations, and making a real difference in national security. Instead, she found herself staring at the main gate of one of the most prestigious military installations in the country, clipboard in hand, and a sinking feeling in her stomach. Gate duty, she whispered to herself, watching the steady stream of personnel and vehicles moving through the checkpoint. It felt like a punishment, though she couldn't think of anything she had done wrong. Her commanding officer had been vague about the assignment, mentioning something about learning the ropes and understanding base operations from the ground up. The gate was bustling with activity, even at 700 hours. Marines, sailors, and civilian contractors moved through the security checkpoint with practiced efficiency. Sarah took her position beside Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, a weathered veteran who had been working gate security for over a decade. "Don't look so glum, Lieutenant," Rodriguez said with a knowing smile. "You'd be surprised what you can learn from this position. Every person who walks through here has a story, and some of those stories are more important than you might think." Sarah tried to maintain her composure, but the disappointment was evident in her voice. "I just thought I'd be doing something more significant. I studied counterintelligence, strategic analysis, foreign language interpretation. This feels like I'm wasting my education." Rodriguez chuckled as he checked the ID of a passing sailor. "Trust me, Lieutenant, nothing at Coronado is a waste of time. This base trains the most elite warriors in the world. SEALs, special operations, classified missions that you and I will never hear about. Sometimes the most important work happens in the most unexpected places." As the morning progressed, Sarah began to observe the patterns and rhythms of the base. She noticed how certain personnel moved with a different kind of purpose, their eyes constantly scanning, their posture alert even in routine situations. These were the special operations personnel, she realized, the ones who carried themselves with quiet confidence born from facing life and death situations. Around mid-morning, a black SUV approached the gate. Sarah could see through the tinted windows that it carried multiple passengers, all in dress uniforms. Rodriguez straightened noticeably as the vehicle stopped at their checkpoint. "VIP transport," he murmured to Sarah. "Probably brass from NAVSPEC War Command." The driver's window rolled down, revealing a Navy petty officer who handed over a folder of credentials. As Rodriguez reviewed the paperwork, Sarah found herself studying the vehicle more closely. Something about the way the passengers sat, the subtle tension in their posture, suggested this wasn't just another routine visit. "Everything checks out," Rodriguez said, returning the credentials. "Have a good day, gentlemen." As the SUV pulled away, Sarah caught a glimpse of the passengers through the rear window. 3 men in navy dress blue uniforms, their chests decorated with ribbons that told stories of service in hostile territories. One of them, she noticed, wore the distinctive trident pin of a Navy SEAL. "Interesting," Rodriguez commented, watching the vehicle disappear into the base. "Haven't seen that particular combination of personnel in a while. Wonder what's brewing." The rest of the morning passed quietly, with routine traffic and standard security checks. Sarah found herself paying closer attention to the details that Rodriguez had mentioned, noticing the subtle differences in how various personnel carried themselves, the way certain vehicles were given expedited processing, and the occasional coded conversations that took place just out of earshot. During her lunch break, Sarah decided to walk around the perimeter of the base, hoping to clear her head and gain some perspective on her situation. The base was impressive, with its pristine facilities and constant activity. She could see training areas where personnel practiced urban warfare scenarios, obstacle courses that challenged even the most athletic individuals, and specialized buildings that were clearly off-limits to most base personnel. As she walked, she noticed a group of trainees running in formation, their instructor calling out commands that pushed them to their physical limits. These were SEAL candidates, she realized, men who had volunteered for one of the most demanding training programs in the military. The washout rate was notorious, with only a small percentage of candidates successfully completing the program. Watching them, Sarah began to understand what Rodriguez had meant about the importance of every position on the base. These elite warriors relied on a complex support structure to function effectively. Intelligence officers, logistics personnel, communication specialists, and, yes, even gate security officers all played crucial roles in the larger mission. Her reflection was interrupted by the sound of approaching vehicles. 3 Humvees were heading toward the main gate, moving with military precision. Sarah quickened her pace to return to her post, sensing that something significant was happening. When she arrived back at the gate, she found Rodriguez in conversation with another security officer, their voices low and serious. The Humvees had already passed through the checkpoint, but she could see them parking near one of the administrative buildings. "What's going on?" Sarah asked. Rodriguez glanced around before responding. "Word is that there's been a development in one of the overseas operations. Nothing confirmed, but the kind of personnel movements we're seeing usually mean something big is happening." As if to emphasize his point, another vehicle approached the gate. This time, it was a Navy staff car, the kind typically used to transport high-ranking officers. The driver was a young seaman, but the passenger in the back seat was clearly someone of importance. The car stopped at their checkpoint, and the rear window rolled down partially. Sarah caught a glimpse of silver eagles on the collar of the passenger's uniform, indicating the rank of captain or colonel. The officer handed over his credentials without speaking, his face grave and focused. Rodriguez processed the paperwork quickly and professionally. "Thank you, sir. Please proceed." As the staff car drove away, Sarah noticed that more personnel were arriving at the base than usual. Some were in civilian clothes, but carried themselves with military bearing, while others were in uniforms from different branches of service. Whatever was happening, it was bringing together people from across the military spectrum. The afternoon brought an unexpected visit from her commanding officer, Commander Patricia Hayes. Hayes was a respected intelligence officer with over 20 years of service, including deployments to some of the most dangerous regions in the world. She approached the gate checkpoint with purposeful strides. "Lieutenant Martinez," Hayes said, her voice carrying the authority of her rank. "How are you finding your new assignment?" Sarah straightened to attention. "It's been educational, ma'am. I'm learning a lot about base operations and security protocols." Hayes nodded approvingly. "Good. I want you to understand that every assignment has value, Lieutenant. Sometimes the most important intelligence comes from the most unexpected sources. Keep your eyes open and your mind sharp. You never know when an observation might prove crucial." With that cryptic comment, Hayes departed, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. Rodriguez, who had been listening to the conversation, gave her a meaningful look. "The commander doesn't make social visits to gate security," he said quietly. "She's here for a reason, and that reason probably has something to do with you." As the day progressed, Sarah found herself paying even closer attention to the people and vehicles passing through the checkpoint. She began to notice patterns that had escaped her earlier, subtle signals, and behaviors that suggested a heightened state of alert throughout the base. Late in the afternoon, as her shift was nearing its end, a lone figure approached the gate on foot. It was unusual for personnel to walk through the main checkpoint, as most arrived by vehicle or used other entrances designed for pedestrian traffic. The figure was a Navy officer in dress blue uniform, walking with the confident stride of someone accustomed to command. As he drew closer, Sarah could see that he was a commander based on the oak leaves on his collar. More significantly, she noticed the distinctive trident pin on his chest, identifying him as a Navy SEAL. His uniform was immaculate, his bearing professional, and his expression serious. The commander approached their checkpoint and stopped directly in front of Sarah. For a moment, neither spoke, and she found herself looking into eyes that had clearly seen combat, eyes that assessed everything around them with practiced efficiency. Then, to her complete surprise, the commander came to attention and rendered a sharp, formal salute. The gesture was so unexpected that Sarah hesitated for a fraction of a second before returning the salute. In military protocol, junior officers typically salute senior officers first, not the other way around. For a SEAL commander to salute a lieutenant first was highly unusual and suggested something far beyond normal courtesy. "Commander James Mitchell," he said, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to leading men in dangerous situations. "I believe we need to talk, Lieutenant Martinez." Sarah felt her heart rate increase as she realized that this encounter was no coincidence. Somehow, this SEAL commander knew who she was and had come to the gate specifically to find her. The morning's routine assignment was about to become something entirely different. Rodriguez stepped forward slightly, his instincts telling him that this was a significant moment. "Sir, do you need to process through the checkpoint?" Commander Mitchell shook his head without taking his eyes off Sarah. "I'm already cleared for base access, Sergeant. I'm here to speak with the lieutenant about a matter of some importance." The implications of his words hung in the air like a challenge. Whatever had brought a SEAL commander to seek her out at the gate, it was clearly connected to the increased activity and mysterious personnel movements she had observed throughout the day. Sarah found her voice, though it carried a slight tremor of nervousness and excitement. "What can I do for you, Commander?" Mitchell's expression remained serious, but there was something in his eyes that suggested respect, perhaps even admiration. "Lieutenant, your background in intelligence analysis and your particular skill set have come to our attention. There's a situation developing that requires someone with your specific qualifications and, frankly, your unique perspective." The words sent a chill down Sarah's spine. After a day of feeling like she was wasting her talents on routine gate duty, suddenly, one of the military's most elite officers was telling her that her skills were needed for something important. Rodriguez, sensing the gravity of the moment, stepped back to give them more privacy. "I can handle the checkpoint alone for a few minutes, Lieutenant." Commander Mitchell nodded his appreciation to the sergeant before turning back to Sarah. "What I'm about to tell you is classified, Lieutenant. Are you prepared to hear information that could change the nature of your service here at Coronado?" Sarah straightened her shoulders, feeling the weight of the moment settling around her. Whatever had begun as a disappointing assignment to gate duty was about to transform into something that would test everything she had learned at the Naval Academy and beyond. "Yes, sir," she replied, her voice steady and determined. "I'm ready." The sun was beginning to set over Naval Base Coronado, casting long shadows across the checkpoint where Sarah Martinez had started her day feeling forgotten and undervalued. Now, as she stood facing a SEAL commander who had sought her out specifically for her skills, she realized that sometimes the most extraordinary opportunities came disguised as ordinary disappointments. Commander Mitchell glanced around the checkpoint area, ensuring their conversation would not be overheard by passing personnel. "Lieutenant, what I'm about to share with you involves a time-sensitive intelligence situation that has implications for ongoing special operations. Your analysis will be crucial to the success of a mission that could save American lives." As those words settled over her, Sarah understood that her real assignment at Coronado was just beginning. The gate duty that had seemed like a dead end was actually the starting point of something that would challenge everything she thought she knew about military intelligence and her own capabilities. The first day that had begun with disappointment was ending with the promise of purpose, danger, and the opportunity to prove herself worthy of the trust that a SEAL commander had just placed in her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight she knew that her military career was about to take a direction she had never imagined possible. Commander Mitchell led Sarah away from the main checkpoint to a small conference room in the administrative building. The room was windowless and secure, designed for sensitive conversations that required privacy from both electronic surveillance and curious ears. As they walked, Sarah noticed that the base had taken on a different atmosphere since morning. Personnel moved with increased urgency, and there was an undercurrent of tension that suggested something significant was unfolding. "Please, have a seat," Mitchell said, gesturing to a chair across from a small table. He remained standing for a moment, studying her with the same intensity she had noticed at the gate. "Lieutenant, before we proceed, I need you to understand that what we discuss here tonight is classified at the highest levels. Are you comfortable with that responsibility?" Sarah nodded without hesitation. "Yes, sir. I understand the implications." Mitchell finally sat down, his expression grave. 3 days ago, one of our reconnaissance teams in Southeast Asia intercepted communications suggesting an imminent threat to American interests in the region. The intelligence was fragmentary, coded in a way that has proven difficult to decode using standard cryptographic methods. He paused, reaching into his uniform jacket to withdraw a folder marked with classification stamps. "Your academic work at the Naval Academy caught the attention of several people in the intelligence community. Your thesis on unconventional pattern recognition in encrypted communications was particularly impressive. We believe your approach might be exactly what we need to break this code." Sarah felt a surge of excitement, mixed with apprehension. Her thesis had been a theoretical exploration of how cultural and linguistic patterns could be used to decode communications that resisted traditional cryptographic analysis. She had never imagined it would have practical applications in active military operations. "What makes this situation particularly urgent," Mitchell continued, "is that we have reason to believe the threat involves American personnel who are currently operating in a denied area. Time is not on our side." He opened the folder and spread several documents across the table. Sarah could see intercepts of radio communications, satellite imagery, and what appeared to be photographs taken in a jungle environment. The communications were in a script she didn't immediately recognize, though there were familiar elements that suggested a Southeast Asian language. "The team that intercepted these communications is deep in hostile territory," Mitchell explained. "They cannot risk extended radio contact to provide additional context. We're working with what you see here, and the lives of 6 American Special Operations personnel may depend on our ability to understand what these communications are telling us." Sarah leaned forward to examine the documents more closely. The communications appeared to follow a pattern that was both systematic and deliberately obscured. There were repeated elements that suggested code words or phrases, but the overall structure was unlike anything she had encountered in her academic studies. "Sir, may I ask about the timeline? How much time do we have to work on this?" Mitchell's expression darkened. "Intelligence suggests that whatever operation is being planned will take place within the next 48 to 72 hours. Our team in the field has been maintaining radio silence to avoid detection, but their last communication indicated they were aware of increased hostile activity in their area." The weight of the situation settled over Sarah like a physical presence. 6 American lives hung in the balance, and she was being asked to apply theoretical knowledge to a real-world crisis with lethal implications. The excitement she had felt moments earlier was now tempered by the sobering reality of the responsibility being placed on her shoulders. "I'll need to understand more about the context," Sarah said, her analytical mind already beginning to work on the problem. "What do we know about the region where these communications were intercepted? The cultural background of the people likely sending these messages?" Mitchell nodded approvingly. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. The intercepts came from an area near the border between 2 countries that have been experiencing low-level conflict for several years. The population is ethnically mixed, with at least 3 major language groups represented. Our linguistics experts have identified elements of 2 different languages in these communications, but they can't make sense of the overall structure." He handed her another document, this one containing background information on the region. "We believe the messages are being sent by a group that has been involved in arms trafficking and has recently begun cooperating with elements hostile to American interests. What makes this particularly dangerous is that this group has access to sophisticated weaponry, including surface-to-air missiles that could threaten our extraction capabilities." Sarah absorbed the information, her mind already beginning to formulate approaches to the cryptographic challenge. "Sir, I'd like to request access to any cultural anthropological studies of the region, particularly anything related to traditional communication methods, folklore, or religious practices. Sometimes coded communications draw on cultural references that aren't immediately obvious to outsiders. Already arranged, Mitchell replied, producing a thick folder from beneath the table. Dr. Elizabeth Chun from the Defense Language Institute has compiled everything available on the cultural patterns of the region. She's also standing by to consult if you need her expertise in real-time analysis. The thoroughness of the preparation impressed Sarah and also emphasized the seriousness of the situation. This wasn't an academic exercise or training scenario. This was an active operation with lives at stake and resources being deployed at the highest levels of the military intelligence community. Commander, may I ask why I was selected for this? Surely there are more experienced analysts available. Mitchell was quiet for a moment, considering his response. Lieutenant, sometimes experience can be a limitation. Experienced analysts often approach problems with preconceived notions about how code should work, what patterns to look for, what methodologies to apply. Your thesis demonstrated an ability to think outside conventional frameworks, to see patterns that others miss. He leaned forward, his voice becoming more intense. But there's another reason. The team in the field includes someone who specifically requested that you be brought into this operation if intelligence analysis became necessary. Sarah felt her breath catch. Someone requested me specifically? Who? Petty Officer First Class David Kim. He was in the same graduating class at the Naval Academy. According to his file, you two worked together on several projects related to unconventional warfare and intelligence analysis. He apparently has a great deal of respect for your analytical abilities. The name hit Sarah like a physical blow. David Kim had been one of her closest friends at the academy, someone with whom she had spent countless hours discussing military strategy, intelligence gathering, and the changing nature of modern warfare. She had lost touch with him after graduation when their career paths diverged, but she remembered him as one of the most dedicated and capable individuals she had ever known. Kim is in the field, she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He's the team's intelligence specialist, Mitchell confirmed. And, according to his last communication, he had reason to believe that the group they're monitoring was planning something that would directly threaten American operations in the region. That was 68 hours ago. The personal connection transformed the situation entirely for Sarah. No longer was she dealing with abstract American personnel in danger. Now, she was working to save someone she knew, someone she respected, someone who had specifically asked for her help. "I understand the situation now, sir," she said, her voice firm with resolution. "What resources do I have available, and where can I work without interruption?" Mitchell smiled for the first time since their conversation began. "We've set up a secure workspace in Building 47. You'll have access to advanced computer systems, direct communication with linguistic experts, and anything else you need. Sergeant Rodriguez has been temporarily reassigned to assist you with any administrative requirements." The mention of Rodriguez surprised her. Rodriguez is being brought into this operation? The sergeant has a background in communications intelligence that isn't widely known, Mitchell explained. Before his current assignment, he spent 8 years working on signals intelligence for special operations. His experience with field communications could prove valuable in understanding the tactical context of these intercepts. Sarah began to understand that her assignment to gate duty that morning had not been the random bureaucratic decision she had assumed. Someone had been positioning her to be available for exactly this kind of emergency, ensuring she would be in place when her skills were needed. "Sir, how long have you known that this assignment might develop?" Mitchell's expression became carefully neutral. "The intelligence community monitors a lot of potential threats, Lieutenant. Sometimes we position resources in anticipation of needs that may or may not materialize. In this case, our preparation appears to have been justified." The implication was clear. Her assignment to Coronado and even her gate duty had been part of a larger plan to have her available for exactly this situation. The sense of being overlooked and underutilized that had dominated her morning now seemed naive and misguided. "I'd like to begin immediately," Sarah said, standing up from her chair. "Every hour that passes increases the risk to the team in the field." "Agreed," Mitchell replied, also rising. But first, there's something else you need to know. The intercepts we're working with may not be the complete picture. There's a possibility that additional communications are being sent using methods we haven't identified yet. Part of your analysis will involve determining whether we're missing pieces of the puzzle. He handed her a secure phone and a badge that would give her access to the restricted areas of the base. This phone will connect you directly to me, day or night. If you discover anything that suggests an immediate threat to the team, contact me immediately. Don't wait for confirmation or additional analysis. Sarah clipped the badge to her uniform and pocketed the phone. Understood, sir. One final thing, Mitchell added as they prepare to leave the conference room. The work you're about to undertake may seem academic, but remember that every minute you spend analyzing these communications is time that our people in the field are in increasing danger. Your theoretical knowledge is about to become the difference between life and death for 6 American service members. As they walked toward Building 47, Sarah felt the full weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. The disappointment and frustration of her morning assignment had been completely transformed into purpose and urgency. She was about to put her education and training to the ultimate test, with consequences that would extend far beyond academic evaluation. The secure workspace in Building 47 was more sophisticated than anything she had encountered during her training. Multiple computer terminals with encrypted connections, communication equipment that could reach anywhere in the world, and wall-mounted displays capable of showing satellite imagery and tactical maps. Rodriguez was already there, reviewing what appeared to be technical specifications for radio equipment. "Lieutenant," Rodriguez greeted her with a nod. "I've been briefed on the situation, ready to put that education to work." Sarah looked around the workspace, taking in the advanced technology and the gravity of their mission. Through the window, she could see the lights of San Diego in the distance, a reminder of the normal world that existed beyond the urgent crisis they were about to tackle. "Let's bring our people home, Sergeant," she said, moving toward the computer terminals where the intercepted communications waited for her analysis. The real work was about to begin, and, with it, the test of whether her unconventional approach to intelligence analysis could save the lives of 6 American Special Operations personnel operating in one of the most dangerous regions of the world. The next several hours would determine whether her theoretical knowledge could translate into practical results when everything was at stake. Sarah spent the first 2 hours immersing herself in the cultural background materials Dr. Chun had provided. The region where the communications had been intercepted was a complex tapestry of ethnic groups, each with their own linguistic traditions, cultural practices, and historical grievances. As she read, she began to understand that the coded messages were likely drawing on cultural references that would be meaningful to locals but opaque to outsiders. Rodriguez proved invaluable in helping her understand the technical aspects of the communications. His experience with field radio equipment allowed him to provide context about transmission patterns, signal strength, and the likely equipment being used by the people sending the messages. "Lieutenant, take a look at this," Rodriguez said, pointing to a technical analysis of the radio frequencies. "These transmissions are coming from at least 3 different locations, but they're coordinated. Someone is running a sophisticated communication network." Sarah studied the data, comparing it to the content of the messages themselves. That suggests a level of organization that goes beyond simple arms trafficking. This group has military-style command and control capabilities. As the night progressed, Sarah began to identify patterns in the communications that had escaped previous analysis. The messages contained repeated phrases that initially appeared to be random, but when she applied her understanding of regional cultural practices, a different picture emerged. "Rodriguez, look at this sequence," she said, highlighting a series of characters on her computer screen. "These aren't just code words. They're references to traditional festival dates in the local calendar. But they're not being used to indicate timing. They're being used to reference specific geographic locations." Rodriguez leaned over her shoulder to study the display. "How does that work?" "In this region, Different villages celebrate festivals on different dates based on their patron saints or local traditions. If you know the cultural calendar, you can use festival references as a geographic code. Someone familiar with the area would immediately understand which village or region was being referenced. The breakthrough energized both of them. Sarah began working through the intercepted communications with renewed focus, using her cultural knowledge to decode geographic references that had been invisible to conventional cryptographic analysis. By 0300 hours, she had mapped out what appeared to be a network of locations connected to the hostile group's operations. More importantly, she had begun to understand the tactical picture the communications revealed. "This is bigger than arms trafficking," she told Rodriguez as she updated their analysis on the main display screen. These communications describe a coordinated operation involving multiple teams positioned around American operational areas. They're planning an ambush. Rodriguez studied the map Sarah had created, showing the decoded locations and their relationship to known American activities in the region. "If you're right, our team isn't just in danger of being discovered. They're walking into a trap." Sarah reached for the secure phone Commander Mitchell had given her, but paused before dialing. "I need to be absolutely certain about this analysis. If I'm wrong, I could be sending our people into an even worse situation." "Lieutenant," Rodriguez said quietly, "in my experience, when you have a gut feeling about intelligence analysis and the technical data supports it, you trust your instincts. Lives depend on making decisions with incomplete information." Sarah took a deep breath and dialed Mitchell's number. Despite the early hour, he answered on the first ring. "Mitchell here. Commander, this is Lieutenant Martinez. I've made significant progress on the communications analysis, and I believe we have an urgent situation. I'll be there in 10 minutes. True to his word, Mitchell arrived quickly, accompanied by two other officers Sarah didn't recognize. One wore the uniform of an Air Force colonel, while the other was a Navy captain with the bearing of someone accustomed to high-stakes operations. "Report," Mitchell said without preamble. Sarah quickly outlined her analysis, showing how she had used cultural references to decode geographic locations and piece together the tactical picture. The assembled officers listened intently, occasionally asking questions about her methodology or the reliability of her conclusions. Based on these communications, Sarah concluded, the hostile group is planning a coordinated operation designed to capture or eliminate American Special Operations personnel. They've positioned teams at multiple locations, and they appear to have detailed intelligence about American operational patterns. The Air Force colonel spoke for the first time. "Lieutenant, how confident are you in this analysis?" "Sir, the cultural decoding methodology is sound, and the pattern matches are statistically significant. I'm confident in the geographic locations and the general tactical picture. What I can't determine from these communications alone is the specific timing of the planned operation." The Navy captain studied the map display. "Commander Mitchell, what's the status of extraction options for the team in the field?" "Limited," Mitchell replied. "The terrain makes helicopter extraction difficult, and the team's current position is too close to populated areas for airstrikes if they come under attack. They're relying on stealth, and they're training to complete their mission and reach the extraction point." Sarah felt a chill as she realized the implications. "Sir, based on the geographic pattern I've identified, the extraction point may be compromised. The hostile forces appear to have positioned teams along the most likely escape routes." The room fell silent as the officers absorbed this information. Finally, the Navy captain spoke. "We need to warn the team and modify the extraction plan. How quickly can we establish communication?" Mitchell checked his watch. "The next scheduled communication window is in 4 hours. But breaking radio silence early would compromise their position if hostile forces are monitoring communications." Sarah studied the map display, her mind working through the tactical implications of her analysis. "Sir, there may be another option. If I'm right about how this group is using cultural references in their communications, we might be able to send messages that would look like local traffic to anyone monitoring the frequencies." The Air Force colonel raised an eyebrow. "Explain." We could compose messages using the same cultural coding system they're using, but with our own information. To hostile monitors, it would appear to be routine communication between local groups. But if our team in the field understands the coding system, they could decode warnings about the threat they're facing. Mitchell considered this possibility. It would require teaching the team the cultural references you've identified, and we have to be absolutely certain about the coding system. If we're wrong, we could inadvertently reveal our intelligence capabilities to hostile forces. There's another risk, Sarah added. If the hostile group realizes their communications have been decoded, they might change their operational plans entirely. We could lose track of their intentions just when we need that information most. The Navy captain began pacing, clearly weighing the various options. What's your assessment of the immediate threat level to our team? Sarah looked at the communications data one more time, considering everything she had learned about the hostile group's capabilities and intentions. Sir, based on the level of coordination and preparation evident in these communications, I believe our team is in immediate danger. The hostile forces aren't just planning to interfere with American operations. They're planning a specific operation targeting our personnel. Recommendation? Mitchell asked. We need to warn the team immediately, even if it means breaking radio silence. The risk of maintaining communication security is outweighed by the risk of allowing them to walk into an ambush. The three senior officers exchanged glances, having a silent conversation based on years of experience with high-stakes military operations. Finally, the Navy captain nodded. Agreed. Commander Mitchell, initiate emergency communication protocols. We need to reach that team and modify their extraction plan based on Lieutenant Martinez's analysis. As Mitchell moved to the communications equipment, Sarah felt a mixture of relief and apprehension. Her analysis was about to be put to the ultimate test, with the lives of 6 American service members hanging in the balance. The next several hours passed in a blur of activity. Emergency communications were established with the team in the field. Sarah's analysis was transmitted along with modified extraction coordinates, and alternative plans were developed in case the primary extraction failed. David Kim's voice came through the encrypted communication system, confirming receipt of the intelligence and acknowledging the threat assessment. Hearing her old friend's calm professionalism in the face of danger reminded Sarah of why she had chosen military service in the first place. Analysis confirmed from field observation came Kim's transmitted message. Hostile activity consistent with intelligence assessment. Modifying route to extraction point Alpha 7. ET 18 hours. The extraction itself took place the following evening, with Sarah monitoring communications from the operations center. The team successfully evaded the hostile forces, using the intelligence she had provided to navigate around the ambush sites and reach a secure extraction point. When the helicopter carrying the special operations team finally touched down at a forward base, Sarah felt a profound sense of accomplishment mixed with relief. Her theoretical knowledge had translated into practical results that had saved American lives. Commander Mitchell found her in the operations center as she was completing her final analysis report. Lieutenant, I wanted to personally thank you for your work on this operation. Your analysis was instrumental in bringing our people home safely. It was a team effort, sir, Sarah replied. Rodriguez's technical expertise and Dr. Chen's cultural background materials were crucial to the success. Mitchell nodded. Nevertheless, your ability to see patterns that others missed made the difference. That's exactly the kind of analytical thinking we need in the intelligence community. He paused, studying her with the same assessing look she had noticed when they first met at the gate checkpoint. I have a question for you, Lieutenant. Are you interested in more assignments like this one? Sarah didn't hesitate. Absolutely, sir. This is exactly the kind of work I hope to be doing when I join the Navy. Good, Mitchell said with a slight smile. Because that gate assignment was never intended to be permanent. It was designed to put you in position for exactly this kind of emergency, and to give you a chance to observe base operations before taking on more sensitive responsibilities. The revelation confirmed what Sarah had begun to suspect during the previous night's operation. Her initial disappointment with the gate assignment had been based on incomplete information about the larger plan for her career development. "Sir, are you saying that my assignment to Coronado was specifically arranged for intelligence work? Let's just say that your academic work had attracted attention at levels you weren't aware of," Mitchell replied. "The intelligence community is always looking for people who can think differently, who can see patterns that conventional analysis misses. Your thesis demonstrated exactly those capabilities." As Sarah reflected on the events of the past 36 hours, she realized that her military career had taken a direction she could never have anticipated. The disappointment and frustration of her first day at the gate had been transformed into purpose and opportunity. 2 weeks later, Sarah received official orders assigning her to a Joint Intelligence Task Force specializing in unconventional analysis methods. Rodriguez was assigned as her senior technical advisor, and Dr. Chun became a regular consultant on their operations. The work was challenging, often urgent, and sometimes dangerous. But it was exactly what Sarah had dreamed of doing when she decided to pursue a career in military intelligence. Her theoretical knowledge was being applied to real-world situations where her analysis could make the difference between mission success and failure, between life and death for American service members operating in hostile environments. The gate assignment that had seemed like such a disappointment had actually been the beginning of a career that would take her around the world, involve her in some of the most sensitive operations of her generation, and establish her as one of the military's leading experts in cultural intelligence analysis. Years later, when Sarah had achieved the rank of commander herself and was briefing junior officers on intelligence analysis, she would often tell them that the most important lesson of her career had been learned during her first day at Naval Base Coronado. That every assignment, no matter how routine it might appear, could be the preparation for something extraordinary. The salute that SEAL Commander Mitchell had rendered to a young lieutenant at a gate checkpoint had been more than military courtesy. It had been recognition of potential, acknowledgement of capability, and invitation to join the ranks of those who serve in the shadows to protect American interests around the world. Sarah's journey from disappointment to purpose had begun with a simple assignment to check identification cards and monitor vehicle traffic. It had evolved into a career dedicated to protecting the lives of the warriors who carried out the nation's most dangerous missions, using her mind as a weapon in the ongoing battle between those who would harm American interests and those who stood guard against the darkness. The gate had been just the beginning.